Hello everybody, my name is Kyle39. Welcome back to another video. Today in this one I'll be doing another tier list video, and in this one I'll be doing a tier list on the meta decks post June 2023 ban list. So yeah, I've done this, I did a tier list with this like a week and a half ago, but the ban list obviously dropped and it does change a lot. So without further ado, let's get straight into the tier list. But actually, before we get into it, one caveat to all this: obviously the ban list is not in effect yet, so we can't really test this meta just yet. So this is going to be more of a prediction style thing, what I expect to be. I would not be surprised in like 3 weeks or so this list is completely wrong. But yeah, without further ado, let's get straight into the tier list. We're going to be starting off with Despia here. So they got branded Expulsion ban, but I feel like the deck is still going to be tier 1.5. So obviously the Expulsion basically trying to hit the Gimmick Puppet out of the metagame. The only problem with that is the new Albion card can still do it. It's can special summon from the graveyard. But the problem with that is Expulsion, you can target banish cards as well. So you do something like banish the Gimmick Puppet and then target 2 banish cards. It would prevent like Ghost Bell from happening. It would prevent the Bestials from happening. But now with Expulsion being banned, it now makes it where the Gimmick Puppet lot does die to Ghost Bell. It does die to the Bestials as well. So we're going to put it at 1.5 because I think the deck is still very, very good. I mean, still having access to the Gimmick Puppet lock is always going to be good. It's always good going second as well. It can break a lot of boards. Just a lot of people, the thing is with this deck, if it is the best deck, it has to go through a lot of hate in the side deck, and I don't think this is one of those decks that could die to sideboard hate. So again, I think the deck is still very, very powerful, but it might be one of those things they might have to change lines. Maybe they don't go for the Gimmick Puppet lock anymore, but I still think the deck is very, very powerful, especially with Fusion still being at 3. We're going to go with the Bestial, so like a Bestial control deck. I would say 1.5. I know. Maybe you put this in tier 2 instead. I think the deck has a lot of potential, either as like, a Dragon Link variant playing a lot of Bestial stuff, or if, a video I made previously this week, a Bestial Synchro deck is always good as well. This deck has potential in this next format to actually be something, especially since none of the Bestials are hit. Again, I think the deck is very, very, very good. It has a lot of potential. It can make, Despotter is one of the craziest synchros 10s out there right now. Again, I think it's going to take a lot of people to find the best variant of this, but I think it does have the potential to actually do something in this next format. So would not be surprised if some sort of Bestial control deck is in one of the top meta decks. Dark World, we're going to put this in, I don't know, tier 2 is fine. Again, this really got hurt last format because Droll and Lockbird was really heavy in this format, and Droll basically just kills the Dark World engine. So it really depends on where the hand traps line up, Al. If Droll is still crazy in this meta, then obviously this will hurt Dark World. But if Droll moves out of format, I would not be surprised if Dark World moves up in the meta. It just really depends on where Droll is going to go in this format. So we're just going to put it in tier 2 for right now. It's very good. It has the hand loop going first and stuff. It can break through a lot of stuff. It can play like Lava Golems and stuff because it does not need its normal summon. Again, it's a very good deck, but if Droll is still in format, or even like something like Shifter as well, wouldn't be surprised if this deck still stays tier 2 to Rogue. Dino, so they're getting new support in Wild Survivors. I'm still going to put this at like top of tier 2. We're going to put Dark World down here. Again, Dinos has always been that really good deck, but the problem with it is they have to play like a lot of babies and a lot of petite Pteranodons. And if you just draw too many of those, it is just a brick essentially. So that's unfortunate, but the new support is getting the new searcher for Dino Tuners now, which can maybe help you out. Again, I think the deck can still be somewhat bricky. It does end on a lot. I will say that. It ends on a crazy end board. But, I don't know. I feel like this is still just a tier 2 deck, even with the new support now. So we're going to keep it at tier 2 for right now, but I would not be surprised if this goes higher up in the chain thanks to its new support. But again, it's still somewhat of a bricky deck if you're just playing 3 babies that do nothing in hand. Drytron. We're going to keep this in tier 2 as well. We're going to put it above Dark World, but below Dinos. So again, another deck that, you know what, does die to Droll. So being in the last format, Droll being heavy, if Droll moves out of format, then you could see Drytron being played. But if Droll is still very much in this format, then I wouldn't be surprised if Drytron falls off the map. Another thing about Drytron is they also die to Shifter, which again, something like Darkwold dies as well. But they also die to Bistiols. If Bistiols become a really good popular option in this next format, then Bistiols do hit the Drytron cards, which is unfortunate. And so there's a lot of things that do hit this deck, but they do set up the Dinomon Black Chaos Max Dragon skip turn kind of thing, which is very, very good. But again, there is a lot of hate for this. Droll, Shifter, Bistiols all exist. Even Ghost Bell in the side deck even hits this as well. Again, it's a tier 2 deck for right now, but it does do a lot. But I think there's just a lot of hate right now in the format that prevents Drytron from being higher up on the list. Evil Twin. Are we counting like Evil Twin Sprite or just Evil Twin? I can see Sprite down here, so I'm going to count this as the pure version of Evil Twin, I guess. We're going to put this in the top of tier 2. Again, if it's running the Sprite engine, I do like it a lot. By itself, I don't think it really does anything by itself unless you're using the new Unchained support, but that's not even technically out yet. So we're going to keep this in tier 2 for right now. Having the Link 4 that can pop and draw a card is always going to be nice, but I feel like you want to play the Sprite version of this. If it's a Sprite version, I'd put it in 1.5, but we're going to count this as the pure version. The pure version we're going to put in just tier 2 for now. Flunderies. Again, it's a deck that can run Shifter, which is very, very potent. It's a deck. We're gonna put this in tier 2. We'll put it here. No. Yeah, we'll put it there. I think Flunder is a really, really, really decent deck. It's not the best deck in the world, but you know, being able to run Shifter and Featherstorm in the main deck with Triple Tactic Thrust being in the format as well, it's always going to be an advantage. I think the problem with this deck is maybe going second, but obviously they can play a lot of board breakers and stuff like that. It also can somewhat brick, but they have a lot of consistency tools in their deck as well for that. So we're going to keep this in tier 2 for now. I think it's a decent deck. I don't think it's one of the best decks in the format, but I think it is a decent option like as a counter meta deck in this format. So I wouldn't be surprised if this actually sees a lot of play in the next format. Gold Pride, man. Fuck. I love Gold Pride. I want to put it in 1.5. I really do. I love this deck. 2 pieces, really do. We're going to put it in tier 2. So the problem with this deck is it dies to a lot. It dies to Droll and Lockbird. It dies to Nib, surprisingly, unless you draw specifically a 7 and a 3 tuner to make Baron early on. If you can't do that, then it does die to Nib. Besides, it can like die to a certain hand trap. Like if they imperm correctly, then it can somewhat die to that as well, unless you just open a shit ton extenders. But I like the deck a lot because again, it is all the punk stuff is doing a lot to get you to your lower your life points, to get you to your gold prize stuff. The XYZ is a guaranteed access to your gold prize stuff now as well. It can run a decent amount of going second cards as well. We're going to keep this in tier. I really want to put this in 1.5. I'm going to be honest with you. I really do. But we're going to put it in tier 2 for right now. But I would not be surprised if this is one of the better decks in the next format as well. Castria. I'm going to be honest with you. I think this is still tier 1. Like, okay, so they hit Mind Hacker. They put a Rise Heart to 1 and they semi-limit Fenrir. Now, not Fenrir, Unicorn. The semi-limit to Unicorn does nothing. Like, honestly, they have like 20 ways to search it anyways. The banning of Mind Hacker makes it where they're going first end board isn't really that great anymore because they can no longer zone lock and they can no longer rip your extra deck. So there's that, which is very, very good. But I think it's still a very decent deck, even with the Rise Heart at 1. Like, it just becomes one of those things you just have to out the Rise Heart. If you can't, then they're basically going to win the game. But if you can, then you win the game. It's kind of like a Glass Cannon deck now. But I still think it's going to be one of the better decks in the next format, just because it can still main deck Shifter. So if there's a lot of combo decks running around, I mean, Shifter is going to shit on that, right? We're going to keep this in tier 1 for right now. I think it did get hit, and now it's a lot weaker than it used to be, but I still think it's one of the better decks, since the other best decks in the format got hit on the ban list as well. So we're going to keep this in tier 1, but I wouldn't be surprised if this slides down a little bit down to like 1.5 or something, but we're going to keep this at tier 1 for right now. Labyrinth. So, did not get hit. A lot of people are expecting this to be the better decks in the format. I'm going to put this in 1.5 for now. Where do you put it here? I think, personally, yes, Labyrinth is a very good deck, but again, if it becomes one of the better decks in the format, there's going to be a lot of side hate for Labyrinth, and I feel like it's going to be one of those decks, once it has to be, it's like a main target in the sideboard hates, that's when it becomes a lot weaker. I think that's why it took advantage of it in the last format, because there was a lot of stuff that did not, a lot of people did not side correctly for the Labyrinth matchup. They didn't have really any side deck cards, maybe like Denko Seka for the Soups matchup, but that's about it. So I personally think that's why it did really well that last format, and that's why a lot of people are expecting it to do this format. But I think if this is one of the better decks in the format, a lot of the hate in the sideboard is going to kill this deck. But it is very good, especially the furniture version where you can do a lot of setting on your opponent's turn with the quick effects and stuff like that. Still going to be one of the better decks, but is it going to be the best deck in the format? I do not think so. I don't think it's going to be the best deck in the format like some people are saying. I think, again, just because it's a trap heavy deck, it does die to a lot of things. Denko Seka, any back row removal hate, even though I know the furniture stuff can play around stuff like that, but I don't know. I just don't feel like it's going to be the best deck in the format, next format. Maritzas. I don't know. This is probably tier 2. It's probably more rogue. I just want to put, we'll put it in rogue, I guess. Again, the Link 4 can be unaffected, and it's a spell trap negate. It can run a lot of hand traps. It's a 1-card combo. It has a lot of things going for it. But it's like one of those things you expect it to do very, very well, but against it just doesn't do that great. Maybe, nah, we'll keep it in rogue for now, just for now. Math Mech. So Circular got limited, but I still think it's like a 1.5 deck this next format. I know Circular got hit, but it's not like Math Mech has 20 ways to search it anyways. They have Small World, they have Cynet Mining, they have the XYZ that can search it as well. I guess it just puts it where it dies more to Droll and Lockbird now than it previously did. But I still think it's going to be one of the better decks in the format. It can still run a shit ton of hand traps. It's still a 1-card combo if the 1 card is searchable in the deck. If you can get to that 1 card, then it's a 1-card combo. Anyways, I think it's still one of the better decks in the format. Is it the best deck in the format? Probably not, but I still think it's one of the better decks in this next format. Purely, man, I think this is going to drop off heavily. So this was like a 1.5 deck, like maybe up here last format, but they hit Pretty Memory, or Delicious Memory, no, my bad. I think that does a lot. Like, I think this sends it down to like tier 2. I think I'm going to put it like there. Like, yes, Noir is still a very, very good card, but like a lot of people were figuring out outs to Noir in the last format when it was at full power, and that's why it wasn't the best deck in the format. It was like the 3rd, maybe 4th best deck in the format at that point. But now that Delicious Memory is hit at 1, that was like your only way to make Noir turn 1. I think this deck actually falls off to tier 2 now. Again, it's still like a decent deck, and it is getting more support in the future. But as of right now, I don't think it's going to be one of the better decks in the format. Maybe, again, I could be definitely wrong about this. Don't get me wrong. But I think this deck will fall off. Just a little bit. Maybe it comes back once the new support comes out. But for right now, I'm going to put it at tier 2. Runeic. I'm going to put this in 1.5. I think this is one of the things they randomly hit Fountain for no fucking reason. Even though, like, a limitation would have been better. Like, they semi-limited it. Like, okay. I think a lot of people were just going to play Runeic Fountain at 2 anyway. So it doesn't really matter that it goes to 2. So Runeic is still basically at full power. I know, so the Naturia version got hit, like the Sacred Tree got limited, but there's different version of Runeic decks that you can play. There's obviously the Fur Hire version, but that dies heavily to Droll, so again, that depends on where Droll goes. But as Runeic as an engine, I still think it's going to be a very, very decent option in this format. I would not be surprised if this ends up doing very, very good in the next format. Which version would you play? That I don't know exactly, but Runeic itself I think is still going to be a very, very good deck in this next format just because it did not get hit whatsoever. I know Fountain went to 2. Who really cares about that? Fountain doesn't really matter. Tip is still at 3, which is absolutely insane. So yeah, we're going to put this in 1.5. Dragon Link. Again, one of those decks I think is going to be a better for 1.5 for this format. Again, didn't really receive a hit on the ban list. Actually gotten better since the Mind Hacker got banned in Castria. They no longer have to worry about their 1-of Striker Dragon getting hit. So they no longer have to worry about that. So I think this is going to be one of the better decks in the format. Maybe this does fall off a bit. Again, this is always an early prediction, so who knows. Again, they can play the Bestial version, where you're playing heavy Bestials. It ends on the Link 5. That's very insane. This deck can do a lot. This deck can do a lot still. Even though how many times have it gotten hit in the past 2 years, this deck can still do a lot. I feel like this could be one of the better decks in the next format. So we're going to put this in 1.5. Super Heavy Samurai. So the Link 1 got hit. So I think as a deck, this has fallen off. I think this is like maybe like down here. Like as a deck, I think it's not that great anymore because you have to open multiple cards just to do your combo now. But as an engine, I would not be surprised if this still stays relevant as an engine, playing like Wakashi, Bike, the 1-up Benki, and like a guy to search off of the Super Heavy Samurai, like Soul Guy, a booster. Again, as an engine, I think it can be very, very decent. As a deck, it probably has fallen off because the Link 1 did do a lot. The Link 1 basically made it where it can be a 1-card combo. Now that with that ban, it's no longer a 1-card combo. You have to open multiple cards for you to combo off. Again, I think I'm putting this a little low. Maybe you can put this next to Purely. But I think it's a deck that's somewhat fallen off. But as an engine, I would not be surprised if that still stays relevant as an engine. But as a deck, I think it has fallen off and it will be a tier 2 deck. Sky Striker. So Engage is at 2 now. Multi-roll's at 3. Fucking holy shit, man. They fucking love the Sky Striker stuff. It's getting more support. I'm tempted to put this in 1.5. We'll put it in the bottom of 1.5. That might be... I'm going to put it either bottom of 1.5 or the top of tier 2. Either one works for me. I don't really care. Again, I want to see what it does first before I start putting it higher. But again, Engage is at 2, Multi-Roll's at 3, Thrust exists. Like, this seems like a deck that should just be very powerful in the next format. I'm going to put it bottom of 1.5. It seems like a deck that should be powerful in the next format. The thing with Sky Striker is it does go second a lot. It does, I don't know. This feels like it should be able to do something next format, right? I don't know. We'll see. We'll put it in 1.5 for right now. Sprite. So starter went to 2, and that was it. So we're going to put this in 1.5. Man, I'm having a lot of decks in 1.5. Again, Sprite seems pretty insane, just with starter going to 2. So Jet's at 3, Blue's at 3. Starter is very much searchable. Like Sprite, maybe it's a little less consistent now that starter's at 2, but like it still should be a very good deck in the next format, especially since there's different versions of Sprite you can play. You can play the Tri-Brigade version, you can play the Evil Twin version. Obviously, there's still the Pure version you can play as well. There's a lot of ways you can take this deck. We're going to put this in 1.5 for now. Again, it might be one of the things like in the last format, it was good, but it kind of fell off near the end of the format. But it didn't really get hit in the ban list, so we're going to keep this in 1.5 for right now. Rika, my God, Rika, this is it's one of those decks that seems like bad on paper, but like it keeps topping like a lot. So it's like, maybe this is like a good deck. We're going to put this in the top of tier 2. I do like the interactions with this deck, being able to tribute your opponent's monsters for costing you interactions during your opponent's turn. I do like that version of Rika a lot. I think this is a tier 2 deck for now. Obviously, it's still very, very good. Like if you're here, like 1 through 2, like 1.5 tier 2, I think your deck is still like okay. Like tier 2 is still very decent. I think you can still very much compete with the tier 1s and the tier 1.5s. We're going to put it in tier 2. I think it's a decent deck. Nothing else to say about that. Sword Soul. So it got dang long. But I think it's kind of awkward for Sword Soul to make Danglong, right? Like, I don't know. I think that's still like a tier 2 deck, unfortunately. I think. I could be wrong. Maybe Danglong does everything for it, but it's like in the little bit of testing I did, it's kind of awkward to make Danglong in Sword Soul. Like, you need specifically Adhara specifically Adhara, and Danglong's a tuner, so you can't really use the token for something. Like, it's weird. It's a weird version. It has the Apple Dragon as well, which is very nice, but we're gonna keep this at tier 2 for now. And then the last card, deck here, Trap Trick. Yeah, this is probably tier 2 as well. Like, it's decent. It's a structure deck, so it's very, very cheap to play as well, but people have figured out ways. It's still a very decent deck going first. I think the problem with Trap Trick is it's a problem going second. So we're going to put this in tier 2. We'll put it right there for now. So yeah, that is my tier list. I hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you did, leave a like and subscribe for more content on the channel, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.